question is that the amendment be agreed to, and I call the honourable member for Fowler.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. A constituent recently visited my office, sharing with me the challenges of his manufacturing business in producing tahini. Tahini, for those who don't know, is a Middle Eastern condiment that is served with many dishes from the region. It's made by grinding toasted hull sesame seeds to create a creamy, smooth paste, which I'm sure many members in this chamber have experienced and tasted. Jamal Alisha, the owner of JR Food Manufacturing, shared how difficult it is for his business to grow. He doesn't access government support and wasn't aware that he could. The challenge for him growing his business locally and internationally is that Australia is importing so much of tahini from the Middle East. This simple yet popular Middle Eastern sauce could be freshly made and should have a shelf life of 9 months, not the 2 years that most of the products from overseas are stamped with when they reach our market shelves. Jamal believes his Australian-made product is of high-quality standards because he has to meet the standards set here. However, it's difficult to compete with overseas imported tahini. We've been hearing and talking about future made in Australia here in this chamber. And this small manufacturing business is an example of the potential for Australian products to be made here for the future of Australia and to grow our economy, which many members have been alluding to all for the last few days. But what support is there for small manufacturing businesses like Jamal's? How can the government assist small food manufacturing businesses in their future made in Australia policy? The government announced this policy earlier with a $1 billion publicly funded initiative to establish an entire solar supply chain in Australia and spun as a step towards creating a manufacturing base for solar products. But this needs to be questioned. Is such a move prudent or rather a waste of funds that could be used elsewhere, such as food manufacturing? All our current domestic solar efforts are just assembly lines for, guess what? Chinese products. That is not manufacturing. For truly manufacturing solar panels, we would need to build the entire solar panel manufacturing value chain, or at least meaningful parts thereof, making or participate in the making of polysilicon, wafers, cells, and then ultimately assembling the final Australian-made panels. To establish such industrial capability, one would need to invest not just $1 billion, but rather $10 to $20 billion at least. And even then, it's by no means assured that such capability would be able to stand up against Chinese capabilities and find enough paying customers. The harsh reality is that China leads this sector not only with low-cost but high-quality products, demanded by economically acting customers and to make ends meet. China's solar industry is supported by a robust infrastructure and a large trained workforce. Their total solar investments go into the many hundreds of billions of dollars, with established worldwide sales channels, over 100,000 of R&D staff and leadership in all elements of the entire supply chain. Who do we think we are now to want to eventually compete with a measly $1 billion against this established world leader who already brought Korean, Europeans and US domestic solar manufacturing to their knees? Therefore, Deputy Speaker, I fear that this could end up just as a PR exercise if we don't ensure it's actually implementable and delivers for small Australian manufacturing businesses. Let me remind the members of this chamber that my great community of Fowler is the heart of manufacturing in this country. Manufacturing in Fowler employs 40% of the population, compared to about 6% of Australia's workforce being employed in this sector. Therefore, my community takes manufacturing seriously as it impacts the livelihood of many in Fowler, as in the case of Jamal Alisha and his tahini product. The bill has grand aspirations, stimulating the economy with renewable energy manufacturing, promising more secure jobs, and even transitioning to a net zero economy. But as I said, to establish such an industrial capability, one would need to invest not just $1 billion, but rather $10 to $20 billion at least. And even then, it is by no means assured that such capability would be able to stand up against China's capabilities. So let's get real. The last few years have been very challenging for all Australians. especially those in low-income areas like my electorate of Fowler. I recently held my second Bring Your Bill Day, and over 200 people showed up, sharing their struggles with the unaffordable cost of living. Many have lost their jobs, homes and businesses, struggling to keep up with the aftermath of COVID-19, spiking inflation and the lack of affordable housing. Our economy continues to stagnate, and people live with uncertainties. What will help them, and all of us now, is economic prosperity. So I'm all for a new plan for the future of Australia, but only if it delivers for working Australians, the ones who actually hold up our economy. This new plan is costing $22.7 billion of taxpayers' money. There's no room for error. We can't afford any more expensive mistakes if we are to combat inflation and stimulate growth. The bill introduces a national interest framework, giving the government power to identify and invest in projects of national interest. This means the government will facilitate private investments to meet these projects of national interest. Priority industries will be identified under two streams: the net zero transformation stream and the economic resilience and security stream. The net zero transformation will be focused on sectors that make a substantial contribution to achieving net zero, whilst the economic resilience and security stream will centralise on sectors critical to our resilience and needing support to unlock private investment. But to obtain Future Made in Australia support, businesses must meet community benefit principles of promoting safe and secure jobs that are well paid, have good conditions, that produce more skilled and inclusive workforce, that invest in training and skills development, and engaging collaboratively and achieving positive outcomes for local communities. Lofty ambitions. But will small businesses, especially those in Fowler, actually understand what they need to do to qualify for the Future Made in Australia support? Will they even meet the community benefit principles? Will Jamal Elisha meet the community benefit principles with his food production? Do governments have a good track record of knowing how to run or advise businesses, or have understanding of our diverse businesses in this country run by diverse communities? My concern is that Future Made in Australia will exclude small businesses like Jamal Elisha from obtaining support due to how broad and vague these principles are, especially those of non-English speaking backgrounds. Family-owned manufacturing businesses of culturally and linguistically diverse background are already struggling navigating the existing legislative frameworks for compliance. I understand the National Interest Framework goal is to identify sectors that can contribute significantly to emissions reduction and spot areas where Australia could have a sustained comparative advantage. But what role will it play to uplift the small and local manufacturers already operating to ensure economic resilience and security at the community level? The government must consult and engage with small manufacturing businesses, especially in areas with high migrants and refugee populations like Fowler, to understand their challenges in navigating through the current industrial relations system, let alone the proposed changes. These engagements will certainly give government and its bureaucracies insights on how to best apply the community benefit principles and to issue guidelines to ensure that these communities have equitable access to the support they need to scale. As it currently stands, the sector assessments may not explicitly consider the unique contributions and challenges of small and local manufacturers within these communities. There is a need for inclusion of criteria within sector assessments that recognise and evaluate the role of small manufacturers in contributing to Australia's economy. One of the major components of this bill is the National Reconstruction Fund. This $15 billion fund was announced 2 years ago, and yet, for reasons I have highlighted in another speech, not $1 of this made it out to small businesses. The NRF has made a comeback under the Future Made in Australia agenda, and the government is expecting us to hope for better outcomes. The lesson of the NRF failure was that those assessing the applications had very narrow expertise and experience. They were mainly finance people. This was of no help when business operators involved in food manufacturing, the tech industry and others made applications. It essentially became the same discussion they would have with their own banks. Simply rolling the NRF into the Future Made in Australia plan would similarly vague or even scant reference to the tactics of how business can apply, and without a pledge for a reviewing committee to be more widely experienced, will result in the same dismal outcome as the NRF. I worry about the government's ability when it comes to involvement in the renewable industry. I understand that it may be a no-brainer for the government to invest in the renewable energy sector for infrastructure renewal and economic prosperity. We hope that Australians can expect more job and opportunity as a result. I support that intention, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We do need better to include small businesses in this big picture. If the bill primarily focuses on larger manufacturing entities and does not provide specific measures to support small and local manufacturers, then it fails to address the needs of a vital segment of the industry that is prevalent in Fowler. We are being pushed with the buy local narrative, but this may be counterproductive and not the whole truth of the process or outcome. To buy local, we must assist businesses like Jamal's Alicia's to grow and survive. In case of the solar, we need to invest in the production of the polysilicon wafers and cells required for Australian-made solar panels, for example. We all know that currently there are cheaper solar panels from China that are readily available to meet the zero net objective. How will the government ensure that we can compete in this market? The bill wants to use public investment to unlock private investments that will act in the national interest. But there is a risk that these investments will only prioritise and benefit larger projects or corporations. This has the potential to overlook the unique challenges faced by small manufacturers and allow opportunities that they offer to wither. I would like to see the bill amended to more explicitly cater for small businesses, such as a dollar amount allocated to them, so that they don't get left out in the cold as they were under the former NRF approach. I am all for revitalising the manufacturing industry in Australia. If we can do this by incentivising small businesses within clean industries, all the better. But I caution the government, if this leaves small manufacturers out in the cold like Jamal Alicia's, many businesses will fail, and the future, rather than being made in Australia, may be quite bleak. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.